Rachel had been dreaming of becoming a famous actress. Finally, her dream was about to come true. A famed talent agency had invited Rachel for an interview. She arrived at the office to meet her new agent early in the morning. There were 4 people in the conference room. Can you tell which one is Rachel's agent? This guy is the only person who doesn't have an employee badge, so he's probably a guest. This man is wearing a classy, expensive suit, but he brought coffee for everyone, so he's an assistant. This lady's mug says "World's Best Lawyer," so she's probably responsible for legal issues. And this relaxed lady over there is Rachel's agent, Zoe. Zoe offered Rachel to take a seat. Which place should Rachel choose? This chair is missing one leg. Someone has spilled coffee on this chair. The barista has written "The Boss" on the drink in this cup and left it on the table next to this chair. And someone has left a sweater on this chair. So, Rachel has only one option, and here it is. First of all, Zoe decided to check how smart Rachel was and offered her this puzzle. She used 3 pencils to make this triangle. Rachel's task was to create a perfect square by moving just 1 pencil. Can you help her? Here's the answer. After the meeting, Zoe unboxed a delivery from a popular writer. He sent Zoe his new masterpiece in secret. Zoe didn't say anything about this to her colleagues, but one of them was actually trying to steal the script. Can you guess who this person is? It's the assistant. He's using his front camera to take pictures of the mirrored ceiling while Zoe is looking through the script. Zoe brought Rachel to her first audition. Rachel joined other actresses in a line. They were all competing for the lead role in a new series. The main character had poor eyesight, so all actresses put on fake glasses to get into character. Rachel didn't do well enough, and another actress, Sally, got the job. Rachel was very upset. But suddenly, Sally fell to the floor. She was unconscious, and Rachel called an ambulance. Doctors said that someone had poisoned Sally, but all the actresses ate the same snacks and drank the same water. Doctors checked the food, and it was fine. Can you guess what happened there? This actress gave Sally a wet wipe to clean her glasses. The wipe was poisoned. The next day, Rachel arrived at a theater to meet Stan. He was a famous director. She noticed 5 weird things about this place right away. What about you? Can you see them too? Something's wrong with the gravity. In particular, with this chandelier that isn't hanging from the ceiling as it should. The wind that the fan creates is blowing to the right, but this actress's hair is flowing to the left. There are human footsteps on the ceiling. The spotlights are red, but the lighting on the stage is blue. And this ballerina's shadow is falling in the wrong direction. Stan introduced Rachel to his favorite actors, Josh, Steven, and Tyler. They were triplets that always joked around. But this time, they agreed that one of them would tell the truth, and the other 2 would lie. They told Rachel about their game. She had to guess their names. The first guy said that he was Josh. The second introduced himself as Steven, and the third guy said, "The second person always tells the truth." Can you figure out who is who? If the third guy is telling the truth, then so is the second. But only one brother was supposed to be honest. So the third guy must be lying. This means the second brother is lying too. So then, the first guy must be telling the truth. He is Josh. The second guy is neither Josh nor Steven. He's Tyler. And the third brother is Steven. Stan offered Rachel to play a princess in his new production. Rachel went to the dressing room to apply makeup. Suddenly, she heard a scream. Rachel ran out of the room and saw the main star of the play on the stage covered in paint. Rachel questioned the suspects. Ron, an assistant, claimed that he'd been eating his sandwich on the balcony when it happened. Lily, a stylist, was on the phone with her husband. And Stacy, a cleaner, said she'd been cleaning the bathroom at that moment. Who's guilty? Ron. He's holding a sandwich, and it's still unwrapped. Now that Rachel got a job, she needed a place to stay in Hollywood. She started looking for an apartment and went to 3 agencies. Each agency showed her one apartment. Rachel liked them all, but when she examined the apartments, she realized that there were scammers among the realtors. Rachel looked at the documents attentively. Which apartment should she choose? Rachel chose the third option. The first apartment is on the 6th floor. But that's impossible because the building only has 5 floors. And according to the description of the second apartment, its construction will be finished in 2025. This is 2022, by the way. But Rachel needs an apartment immediately. Rachel rented the third apartment and moved in right away. But something was wrong with the bathroom there. Can you see it? How is she supposed to flush? Can you see anything weird here? There's no shower drain. Rachel heard the doorbell ring. Her neighbors, Peter and Victor, brought her 2 cakes, but only one of them was edible. Can you tell which one? Victor's cake is sprinkled with almond flakes, while Peter's cake is decorated with human nails. The next day, Zoe texted Rachel to check how she was doing. Rachel sent her this selfie and said, "Alone at home, learning my lines." Zoe sent Rachel this reply, "What a liar you are." Why? If Rachel's alone, who's that guy? Zoe took Rachel to a party and introduced her to Nick, an eccentric billionaire who was financing one of Zoe's movie projects. They had a brief conversation, and then Rachel lost him in the crowd. In a while, Rachel noticed 3 guys facing away from her. Each of them looked exactly like Nick. Can you tell who the real Nick is? This guy has a tattoo on his hand, while Nick didn't have it. And this guy's suit is fake. They wrote the brand name with a mistake. Nick offered for Rachel to sing karaoke. The girls sang a song, and Nick liked it so much that he offered her a suitcase full of gold. But he wouldn't reward just anyone. Only smart people deserved his money. To get the gold, Rachel had to crack a riddle. Nick showed her 4 rare coins. He said there was something wrong with 3 of them. Can you figure out which coin is real? People who lived at that time didn't call their era BCE. This coin is from the future. Take a look at the date. There weren't cars in 1365. So here's the only real coin. Rachel used an app to call a taxi to take her precious suitcase home. She saw 3 identical cars in the parking lot. Each of the 3 drivers claimed that Rachel had ordered their car. Which driver should Rachel choose? The third one. Take a look at the first taxi. There's a creepy guy hiding in the back seat, and the second car is missing a wheel. Zoe was having a party at her villa. She noticed that her son, Harry, was eating in his room with some lady. But Zoe didn't know who she was. The woman got very curious. So, after they left, she sneaked into her son's room to find some hints. There were 3 girls at her party: Lily, Jennifer, and Diana. Zoe immediately guessed who was with her son. What about you? Harry is dating Jennifer. Look at the dishes on the table. There's a lipstick stain on the fork. Jennifer is the only girl wearing red lipstick. In the morning, Rachel went for a run in the park. On her way there, she met this woman. And a minute later, she saw another woman, absolutely the same. Rachel thought it was extremely bizarre. But, in reality, there were 5 differences between these 2 ladies. Can you see them? Here they are. Rachel continued her run and saw these 2 guys on a boat in the river. And a couple of minutes later, she noticed these fishermen. Can you spot any differences? There are 5 differences between these 2 pictures. Have you found them all? Rachel stopped because she needed to tie her shoelaces. Suddenly, she saw these 2 women with backpacks. Can you spot 5 differences between them? Right, here they are. Rachel arrived at her apartment building and found her neighbor, Peter, unconscious at the bottom of the stairs. The scene in front of her eyes was so awful that Rachel fainted, and the concierge carried her home. In the evening, after her nap, Rachel left her apartment. And guess what? In the lobby, she came across Peter again. But this time, he was energetic and happy. He was also drinking some juice. How did he survive? Look, he's a vampire! In the morning, Zoe called Rachel and asked her to come to the agency immediately. When Rachel saw the office, she was shocked. It was a mess. Someone had stained the walls with paint, and broken furniture and torn documents were everywhere. Zoe questioned 3 suspects. Dan, an assistant, said that he'd been partying all night. Many people could confirm that. Jessica, a lawyer, said, "Who do you think I am? I love my job. Otherwise, I would have already quit." And Sarah, a copywriter, said that she'd been the last one to leave the office. And she had locked the door, that's for sure. Who's lying? Jessica. All the mugs are broken, except for hers. World's best lawyer. The woman wanted to get rid of some documents, so she faked a robbery.
Sarah accidentally pulled a lever in a science lab and set free a group of mutant zombies. The 4 humans left in the lab needed to escape before the zombies caught up. To do so, they needed to cross an old rope bridge hanging over a massive gorge. According to the professor's calculations, the zombies would catch up with the lab team in 17 minutes. They needed to get everyone across the bridge before that. Sarah was the fastest one in the group. She could cross the bridge in 1 minute. The lab assistant, Dawn, could cross it in 2 minutes. But the janitor and the professor were way slower. The first needed 5 minutes, and the second needed 10 minutes to get to the other side. They also only had 1 lantern left. How could they arrive at the other side safely if the bridge could only hold 2 people at a time, and each group needed to carry the lantern to illuminate the way? Here's how it works. Sarah and Dawn cross the bridge first, carrying the lantern. It takes them 2 minutes. Sarah, the quickest, runs back with the lantern. Then, the professor and the janitor cross the bridge together. It takes them 10 minutes. In total, it takes 13 minutes. Dawn grabs the lantern from them and dashes across the bridge to help Sarah get across. With 2 minutes left on the clock, Sarah and Dawn get safely to the other side, just in time to cut the rope and save their lives. Helena finally got herself a new guitar. She wanted to start playing it right away, but she had to go to school. She locked the instrument in her room and left. When she got home that evening, the guitar was gone. She knew it must have been one of her family members, as they were always playing pranks on each other. So she questioned each of them. Helena's mother said she hadn't even seen the guitar the girl had bought. Her dad said he'd seen it when he'd passed by Helena's room, but swore he hadn't done anything to it. Her brother said he hadn't gone upstairs the whole day, so he hadn't seen the guitar either. Helena solved the mystery right away. Can you figure it out? Her dad is lying. He said he'd seen the guitar when passing by her room, but that would be impossible. Helena locked the door on the way out. John, Carl, and Ben are sitting on a park bench. One of them arranged to meet his two sisters. He promised them he would take them on a stroll in the park. Can you tell which guy it is? It's Ben. Look at his wrist. He's wearing two bracelets, probably made by his younger sisters. Josh was walking in a forest at night and came across an old castle. He was curious, so he found a way to sneak in and started walking down a corridor. Pretty soon, he met three cloaked figures. When Josh asked them who they were, they said they were two werewolves and one vampire. The trio told Josh that he had made a bad choice coming inside the castle. They said they wouldn't leave him unless Josh outsmarted them. Josh had to guess who the vampire was. According to the rules, he was only allowed to ask each of them the same question, and the question couldn't be, "Are you a vampire?" After a few minutes of thinking, Josh asked, "What's your eye color?" He guessed who the vampire was and was allowed to leave the castle. Why did he ask that? And how did that question help him? Vampires don't reflect in mirrors, and they don't show up in photos. The vampire probably wouldn't know their eye color. One afternoon, four friends met up for coffee. Someone asked them how old they were, and they answered with a riddle. They said Mia was 3 times older than Anna, but 3 years ago, Anna was younger than Claudia is now, and Olivia is twice as old as Anna. So, can you put the girls in order according to their age? The correct order is Mia, Olivia, Anna, and Claudia. Mary's birthday was coming up, and she decided to treat herself to a relaxing day at the spa. During the massage, Mary dozed off. When she woke up, the money was missing from her purse. There were 3 suspects. The cashier, Erica, claimed that she'd been having lunch at the back. Catherine, the masseuse, said, "I went to the back of the store to get some extra oil." Monica, a customer, said she hadn't seen anything and had just been waiting for her turn. What do you say, Sherlock? Who did it? The culprit is Catherine, the masseuse. She must have waited for Mary to fall asleep and then took her things. Look at the stash of money hidden behind the oils. Susanna was walking down the street when she saw a small dog. It looked as if the dog had just run away, so she picked it up and started searching for its owner. She walked into an office building. There were 3 people there. Susanna knew immediately who the dog's owner was. How did she figure it out? Look at the guy in the middle. He's sitting on a dog's leash. You've just come back from a long trip. You had to get a new suitcase to store all the things you bought. But after arriving home, you realize you've forgotten the code you need to open the suitcase. Luckily, you left yourself a note on your cell phone that can help you decipher the code on the lock. 682. One digit is correct and in the right place. 614. One digit is correct, but in the wrong place. 206. Two digits are correct, but in the wrong place. 768. All digits are wrong. 380. One digit is right, but in the wrong place. What's the three-digit code? (042). One morning, Detective Smith arrived at the jail where three men had escaped from their cells. The prisoners could neither see nor talk to each other. But they managed to organize their escape together. They visited the same shower room, but only one person was allowed to come in at a time. How did they manage to communicate? They wrote messages to one another on the bathroom mirror, used the steam to read them, and planned their escape together. On a Sunday morning, 7 friends went to the mall. Esme, Evelyn, and Elise grabbed a cup of coffee each, while Ava, Ella, and Emma decided to drink some refreshing soda. Can you figure out if Esther chose to drink coffee or soda? Esther is drinking coffee. The secret to figuring out the answer is in the girls' names. Esme, Evelyn, Elise, and Esther all have 2-letter E's in their names. In the afternoon, 3 people visited Tessa's clothing store. These 3 people were the only customers she had that day. The first person bought a belt and a purse. The second person bought a dress. And the third customer got a hat. One of them was a criminal, and Tessa reported them to the police immediately. Who was the criminal, and how did Tessa know? The third person gave her a $1,000 bill, but such bills don't exist. At 11 a.m., Amy got a call from her boss, Tom. He was in distress because a very important document had disappeared from his office. It had been on the desk the evening before, but nowhere to be found in the morning. Amy immediately went there to question the employees. She soon had 3 suspects. Elijah said he had spent the previous evening in the movies. Mason took his girlfriend to dinner. And Evelyn visited an art gallery. It didn't take Amy long to understand who was lying. Can you figure it out? It was Elijah. Take a close look at his ticket. It isn't torn, which means he didn't really go to the movies.
Gemma is a mermaid. No, really. She lives in the Atlantic Ocean with her family and friends. Can you tell who the youngest sister in the family is just by looking at them? Take a look at the granny mermaid. She has plenty of starfish on her tail. It's a hint. Each star symbolizes 1 year of life. That means that the second mermaid is the youngest. Her tail is decorated with 15 starfish, which means she's 15. And 2 other sisters are 18 and 22 years old, respectively. Now one day, Gemma went to a mermaid party, but one of the guests was not a real mermaid. Can you tell who it was? This shark over there is not a mermaid. Gemma's mother, Fiona, owns a cute 1-story jewelry store for mermaids. She came to her store early in the morning and found out that the most expensive necklace had been stolen. She called the underwater police. Detective Fisher arrived and questioned Fiona. "I closed the store at 10 p.m. and went home. The pearl necklace was still right there." Detective Fisher identified 3 suspects. The owner of the store next door said, "I closed my door at 8 p.m. and went home right after that." The guard said, "I was on duty last night. Perhaps the thief snuck into the store when I was patrolling another floor." And the cleaning lady said that she'd finished cleaning at 4 p.m. Then she rushed home because her husband was having a birthday party. So, who's lying? The guard. Fiona's shop is a 1-story building. He couldn't be on another floor when the necklace was stolen. There's no other floor. Gemma was swimming with dolphins and reached the surface of the ocean. Suddenly, she noticed 2 handsome guys, Nick and Rick, and they were both in trouble. Which guy should Gemma save first? Rick. Although this wooden boat is a bit flooded with water, it's still okay, and Nick can scoop the water out. But this inflatable boat is damaged. Rick will soon find himself in the water, and a shark is nearby. Gemma saved both guys and brought them to the shore. Nick grabbed his phone and took her picture without permission. Gemma asked him to delete the photo because merfolk didn't want people to know about them. Nick said, "Okay, I'll delete the evidence, but first, you gotta crack my riddle. Salty water everywhere, but not sea in sight. What am I talking about? Can you help Gemma?" The correct answer is tears. Rick asked Gemma on a date, and she said yes. She went to a local witch doctor to buy a potion to get human legs for 24 hours. The door to the witch's house was locked, and the note said, "If you want to meet me, find the key first." Can you help Gemma find the key? Here it is. Gemma opened the door with the key and found another door that required a password. There was a note on the door. What has 88 keys but cannot open a single door? Can you help Gemma crack the code? It's a piano. Gemma didn't have any money. The witch offered her this deal.
If you guess my riddle, I'll give you the potion for free. But if you don't crack it, you will be my servant forever. So listen, 2 in a hole and 4 in a pack. 6 in a trio, you see. 8's a quartet, but what you must get is the name that fits just one of me. What am I?
Gemma cracked this riddle right away and got her potion. What about you? The correct answer is half. Gemma got the potion, drank it, and turned into a human. There were 3 routes she could take to get to the meeting point. The first path led through a village inhabited by vampires. The second path is full of toxic flowers that could make her lose her mind. And the third path went through an enchanted forest that blocked all magic and canceled all previous spells. Which way should Gemma choose? The first option is the safest. It's a sunny day and vampires are probably sleeping. Rick and Gemma met at a restaurant called 3 Mermaids. But there are only 2 statues of mermaids on the porch. The owner of the cafe, Victor, is well aware of this and could easily fix this. But he doesn't. Why? This is his business strategy. Passers-by notice the mistake, enter the restaurant to inform the owner, and often stay for lunch. Rick is a detective at the police station. During his dinner with Gemma, He received an urgent call from work. Jeff, a country house owner, said that his housekeeper had tried to get rid of him. The night before, the housekeeper gave him an apple for dessert. The man took a bite and passed out. He woke up the next morning and immediately called the police. Rick and Gemma went to the crime scene. The housekeeper denied everything. Gemma didn't know who to believe, but when Rick examined the crime scene, he understood who was lying right away. Who's the liar, the housekeeper or the owner? The owner said he'd eaten a poison apple. So if it happened the day before, this apple must be brown now. But it's not. The man must have bitten into it just before calling the police. Gemma didn't notice this clue because she doesn't live on land. Rick and Gemma decided to have a picnic in a sunflower field. But something's wrong here. Can you tell what exactly? The wind is blowing the clouds to the right, but the sunflowers are swinging to the left. That's impossible. Gemma fell asleep in the field. When she woke up, Rick was gone. She looked around and saw an evil elf. He said, "I've put your boyfriend in jail, mermaid. If you want to see him again, solve my puzzle. I can be red, blue, purple, and green. No one can reach me, not even the queen. What am I?" Can you help Gemma save Rick? The correct answer is rainbow. The elf took Gemma to his secret lab. He said, "I've cloned your boyfriend so we don't need him anymore. Now you may take him home. Unfortunately, I don't remember which of them is the real Rick, but you know better. Can you help Gemma decide which of these guys is her Rick? This guy has 3 fingers. This Rick's teeth are too sharp for a human. This Rick lacks eyebrows, and this one has pointed ears. So this one is the only real human. The elf returned Rick to Gemma. The guys rushed away from his lab. It began to rain, and they decided to hide in an old, creepy castle. When they entered the building, they saw a beautiful fountain. That's when Rick and Gemma realized that they were not alone. There were many ghosts in this castle. Can you figure out the exact number? There are 7 ghosts in this picture. One of the ghosts is hiding inside the fountain. And the guy over there is not a ghost. He has feet and he's sweating. He's the owner of the castle. The owner showed Rick and Gemma his art collection. It contained an ancient and expensive item he was very proud of. "This is a picture created by a 16th century artist. I got it from my father, and he got it from his father too, and so on." But Rick didn't believe that the painting was original and called the castle owner a liar. Why? See this plastic cup? It couldn't exist in the 16th century. Well, it stopped raining and the guys decided to leave the castle. But the door had disappeared. The owner of the castle was very angry and offered them only 3 options to escape. There was a tunnel with a fire burning inside behind the first door. Dangerous, angry snakes were waiting behind the second door. And there was a portal leading to a black hole behind the third door. Which door should Gemma and Rick choose? The first door. They can put the fire out using the water from the fountain and vases from this shelf. Rick and Gemma went to the beach because the 24-hour spell was coming to an end. Gemma had to return to the Sea Kingdom. Suddenly, the Wicked Witch appeared out of nowhere and said, "You guys are so cute. I don't want you to be apart. If you manage to solve my riddle, I'll turn Gemma into a human for good. Here's your task. How to poke a balloon without popping it." What do you think? Rick cracked this riddle right away. What about you? The correct way to do it is by letting the air out of the balloon first. Gemma became a human. Rick was very glad and invited her to go on vacation right away. They arrived at the airport, but suddenly an elegant lady began to shout. Someone had snatched her super expensive bag. Rick reacted quickly. He detained 3 suspicious passengers who had been hanging around for the last hour. Rick and the airport security watched the footage from the cameras. Unfortunately, they could only find the footage of the events from 5 minutes before the theft. So, who's the criminal? It's the guy over there. The elderly woman's bag only looks bigger because she put her jacket inside. And the stolen bag wouldn't fit in this girl's purse. Gemma was living happily with Rick. But one day, she received this postcard from her mermaid sister. Gemma was horrified. She dropped everything and went back to the Sea Kingdom to save her sister. But when she got there, she saw that her sister was safe. How did she survive? See these theater curtains in the picture? It was a show for the inhabitants of the sea. Well, that figures. So a restaurant owner called the police and said a customer had stolen a large sum of money. When the police arrived, the restaurant security guard already had 3 suspects. Thomas said, "I was just walking along the street. I didn't even enter your restaurant." Dylan was angry. "I've never been to this place before. I was sitting in my car when that guy ran up to me and started throwing accusations." John said, "I did visit the restaurant yesterday, but I just came in to get a coffee and didn't stay longer than 5 minutes." After listening to the suspects, the police arrested the thief. Who was it? It was Dylan. His car was parked in the place reserved for regular clients, but he claimed he'd never been to the restaurant before. Harrison was walking home when someone threw a bag over his head and knocked the guy out. When he came round, he found himself in a room with 4 doors and a tiny window. Harrison opened the window, but it was too small for him to squeeze through. Suddenly, the guy spotted a piece of paper lying on the floor. It was a note that said, "Only 1 door leads outside. The other 3 don't lead anywhere. You can try to open just 1 door, and only once. If you don't succeed, all of them will get locked forever." Harrison thought for a while and made the right choice. How did he figure it out? He opened the window. This created a draft. The guy checked the keyholes and felt some cool air coming from one of them. It was the door to freedom. It was Sunday morning when a submarine captain found one of his sailors lying unconscious on his bunk. Someone had hit him on the head. It could only be another crew member. The captain had 3 suspects, Mateo, David, and Owen. He questioned them, and that's what they said. Mateo: "I couldn't do it. I was checking the equipment in the machinery compartment." David: "When it happened, I was washing dishes left after dinner." Owen: "At that moment, I was busy posting a new video on TikTok." Who was lying? It was Owen. People can't use the internet for personal purposes on submarines. Leo studied art in college and rented an apartment together with his friend Andrew. Leo had bad eyesight and was wearing his glasses at all times. One day, Andrew didn't notice Leo's glasses and accidentally sat on them. They were beyond repair. Leo was so furious he shouted at his friend, and Andrew ran away. Leo called his girlfriend and asked her to give him a lift to the optician. He couldn't drive without his glasses. They were turning onto the main road when they spotted Andrew. He was lying in the bushes, unmoving. Leo immediately called the police and ambulance. Andrew was taken to a hospital, and a police officer started to question the witnesses. Leo told him, "My girlfriend was behind the wheel when I spotted Andrew. We immediately stopped and called you. We didn't see anything suspicious." The police officer arrested Leo. Why? With such poor eyesight and without glasses, how could he notice Andrew lying in the bushes? Lily called the police. She found her neighbor, a famous artist, on the floor of his apartment. The unconscious man was quickly rushed to a hospital. The police had 3 suspects. Lily said, "I live next door. I heard some shouting and loud bangs. I went to check on what was going on and found him on the floor." Zachary told the police the artist was his friend. "We agreed to meet at the restaurant, and I came to give him a lift." And Cooper said, "I ordered a painting from him, but when I came to pick it up, I saw the police." Who's guilty? It's Zachary. If they agreed to meet at the restaurant, why did he come to the artist's apartment? You wake up locked in a room with no windows and just one automatic door. Above the door, there's a large screen. Suddenly, it turns on. You hear a voice. It sounds muffled. "Crack this riddle and you're free to go. If not, the room will be filled with toxic gas in 5 minutes." After that, you see the riddle. What could it mean? Hopefully, you'll realize in time that it means sitting on top of the world. Look at these mirrors and say which one is magical. It's the one the girl in the middle is holding. Apparently, it helped her get rid of her mole. A businessman's about to go through a security check at the airport when he realizes someone's taken his luggage. Airport security officers have 3 suspects. Anna says she doesn't need someone's old bag. She has her own, thank you very much. Mike answers he's a light traveler and doesn't have luggage. He keeps everything in his backpack. James says he's been in a car accident recently. His arm's broken and he has a sprained ankle. He can hardly carry anything. In no time, the security officers arrest the thief. Can you figure out who it is? It's Anna. Nobody told her the bag was old. Several police officers are following a criminal. He hid in a random house. When the officers entered the building, they saw a costume party was going on, and the criminal pretended to be one of the guests. The police looked at the people and soon figured out who the criminal was. How did they understand it? It's the man in the black cape. Unlike other partygoers, he seemed to throw on everything he had at hand: Iron Man's helmet, Batman's cape, and Hulk's pants. 2 young women disappeared one by one in a small town. The police found an envelope with a strange code in the first girl's apartment. In the second woman's house, they discovered another envelope, this time with a weird table. It was empty, but several squares were darker than the rest. The detective suspects the girl who will vanish next might be Madeline, Melanie, or Ariana. Can you figure out which one it'll be? After studying the code and the table, the detective realized it would be Madeline. One day, before a popular blogger conference, the security of the building where it was going to take place got a strange message. One of the bloggers is going to be kidnapped tomorrow. It'll either be Monica or Leslie. It was too late to cancel the whole thing. That's why the security officers decided to keep a close eye on the girls. During the event, the girls weren't talking to anyone suspicious. Everything and everyone looked perfectly normal. But suddenly, it became clear who was plotting against one of the girls. Can you figure it out? It was Monica. Look at that rope in her bag. She was going to get rid of her competitor. Aaron was preparing for his test for ages. He was sure his answers were correct and he'd get an A. But several days later, the teacher told the guy he wanted to talk to him. It turned out Aaron had made a tiny mistake and the professor couldn't give him the highest mark. But, the teacher said, if you manage to solve one riddle, I'll give you an A. Aaron wanted to have a good mark. Of course, he agreed. That's what his teacher showed him. After thinking for several minutes, Aaron answered, and it was correct. What did he say? In between jobs. Maria was walking home from work when she heard screaming. It was coming from the house she was passing by. The girl immediately ran in to help. She followed the voice, and it brought her to the basement. As soon as she walked in, the door slammed shut. Suddenly, 3 portals opened in front of her, but only one of them led to safety. The first portal was filled with giant poisonous snakes. In the second portal, there was a huge suspended rock. It would crash down the moment someone stepped in. In the third portal, 5 hungry crocodiles were waiting for Maria. Luckily, the girl chose the safe portal and managed to escape. Which portal was it? She picked the second one. Maria threw her shoes inside, waited for the massive stone to drop, and then walked away. 2 men were playing chess. They'd already played 5 games, and each man had won 3 of them. How is it possible? The men were playing with different opponents, not with each other. Sarah and Liam had a son named Oliver. On Saturday, the couple went out for dinner and left Oliver at home. When they returned, the boy was nowhere to be found. The anxious parents called the police. A detective arrived and questioned everyone in the house. The babysitter said she'd been packing Oliver's school bag for the next day. The maid said she'd spent the whole evening cleaning the kitchen. And the cook said he had been preparing food for the next day. He was listening to music and didn't hear anything. The police immediately knew who was lying. And what about you? It was the babysitter. Children don't go to school on Sundays, so Oliver didn't need his school bag to be packed.
Sammy was visiting her grandmother during Halloween. When her grandmother went to get groceries for their Halloween dinner, Sammy started hearing strange noises from the attic. He got curious and wanted to find out what was making them, so he climbed there. He noticed that a big wooden box was glowing. He went to open it, but it was locked. Luckily, his grandmother was a bit forgetful, so she left some clues around the room. Can you help Sammy figure out the digit passcode? Take a look at these books stacked next to the box. Did you notice that these 4 books have numbers instead of titles on their covers? Those must be the numbers he needs to open the box. So the passcode is 4203. After Sammy opened the box, he started hearing the whispers again. They were coming from the strange book that was in the box. The book was saying, "Open me, but to do that, you need to answer the riddle on my cover. In the sun, I dance and play, but in the dark, I fade away. I'm not alive, yet always near. What am I? Can you tell me, dear?" The answer is a shadow. As soon as Sammy opened the book, it magically teleported him to a dark forest. He started panicking and running around frantically. That's when he spotted an owl sitting on a branch. The owl said, "Lost friend, I can help you find your way out of this labyrinth of trees, but first, you have to hear my riddle. I'm not alive, but I can reflect your fear. Look into me, and I'll always be near. What am I must be crystal clear." Do you know the answer? It's a mirror. The owl guided Sammy to a wizard's cottage. Then, Sammy explained his situation to the wizard and convinced him to help. There was only one spell that could send Sammy back to his world, and it was in a magic book that was stolen from an evil witch. So, the book was not revealing its secrets to the wizard. There was a riddle at the back of the spell book, and it said, "Speak what belongs to you but is used more by the others, and I shall reveal my secrets." Do you know what that is? It's your name. The Monster Hunters Agency was suspicious that a witch had crossed into our world from the supernatural realm. After following the magic trail the witch left behind, they got suspicious of 3 people. So they placed hidden cameras in their rooms and started observing them sleeping to figure out who the witch was. Can you help them? Okay, each of these people has something in their rooms that indicates they might be a witch. But take a look at the broom inside the First Lady's bed. But first of all, it's made of plastic. And it also has a label on it, which means it was bought from the store. The Third Lady is wearing a glowing amulet. I admit it looks mysterious, but it's just a toy. So the witch is the lady with the pointed hat peeking out from underneath her pillow. And if that doesn't convince you, her black cat sleeping on the other side of the bed will. Amy's town had an old museum that the residents believed to be haunted. Amy and her friends decided to spend the Halloween night inside the museum to have some spooky fun. When the clock struck midnight, all the portraits hanging on the museum walls came to life. Then a portrait of a lady started screaming for some help. She told Amy that the former employees dared to make a fake version of her portrait, and she wanted Amy to destroy it. But once Amy saw the fake portrait, she spotted 3 differences from the original and assured the lady that it couldn't hold a candle to the original. Can you spot them too? The pendant on the lady's neck, her lipstick color, and the ribbon on her hair are different from the original painting. The spooky traveling circus company was going to visit Evelyn's town to put on a Halloween show, and she really wanted to go. But they were only offering a few tickets to the people who could answer their riddle correctly.
With fur as dark as the midnight sky, it's often seen as an omen. Oh my! In superstitions, it takes its place. A witch's companion with mystery and grace.
Can you tell what this is? The answer is a black cat. The circus company required all the audience members to come to the show dressed in costumes. So Evelyn headed to the shopping mall to get herself a costume. She found 3 options to choose from: a witch costume, a mermaid costume, and a Victorian-era vampire costume. Which one should she pick? Take a look at the back of the witch costume. It says it's made out of paper, so it'll not be a good idea to wear that. And the mermaid costume is all teared up at the back. So she should choose the Victorian-era vampire costume. It may look bloody, but it sure fits the theme. It was finally Halloween, aka the day of the show. Evelyn headed to the circus tent to wait in line to enter the venue. But three strange things among the people caught her eye. Can you spot what they are? Look at this guy waiting in the line. His feet are not touching the ground. He's floating. Evelyn also saw her friend Edward waiting in line. As they started waiting together, she learned that Edward's ticket was from the first row and they wouldn't be sitting next to each other. When the circus manager overheard them talking, he suggested that he might be able to change Evelyn's seat. Then he brought 3 chests, put the new ticket into one, and told Evelyn to follow it. If she was able to tell which chest the ticket was in by the end, he would give it to her. So, watch the manager move the chests and help Evelyn win the ticket. The ticket is in this one. Before the show started, Evelyn and Edward went to the cafeteria to grab some snacks. Take a look at these 3 options. Which one should they get? Take a look at the date that's written on the potato chips package. According to it, the chips expired in 1980, so that's a pass. And take a look at the small note below the ice cream. It says it's earwax flavored. Nobody wants to taste that, so they should pick the popcorn. The gooey thing on top of it is just caramel sauce. The show finally began. The first performer was a magician, and his first trick, he teleported from the right side of the stage to the left side. But Evelyn saw right through his illusion and figured out how he did it immediately. Can you? Look behind this curtain. There is a portable projection machine. It sure has something to do with that. As the spooky show continued, Evelyn realized that something was off with some of the performers on the stage. She started suspecting that some of the circus members might not be human after all. Can you tell what made her think so? Take a look at the singer first. She has gills at the sides of her neck. Secondly, did you notice the yellow, long, sharp nails of the juggler? And lastly, the rope walker has a tail at the back. Once the show was finally over, the circus manager came to the stage and said,
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been lying to you. You see, we're actually creatures of the underworld and we came here to steal your souls. All the exits in our tent are magically sealed, so you can't escape. Only those who know our riddle correctly will be freed. I have a mouth, but I can't speak. I run, but I can't walk. What am I?
Can you help everyone escape? The answer is a river. Dana is a swimming champion, preparing for her competitions on Monday. 24 hours before the big day, she disappears. Nobody can find her, and the police suspect 3 other swimmers. Hannah says she hasn't spoken to Dana since their last practice. Ashley explains that she invited Dana for lunch on Saturday, but the missing swimmer refused because she was getting her hair done for the competition. And Melanie says that she spoke to Dana the night before. Dana told her she was feeling anxious before the race. One of the swimmers is lying. Who is it? Ashley knows where Dana is. It doesn't make sense for a swimmer to have her hair done before a competition. Laura was walking home from work when she heard screams coming from a nearby house. She immediately rushed in to help. She followed the voice and it guided her to a basement. As soon as she walked in, the door slammed shut. 3 portals opened in front of her. Only one of them led to safety. The first portal was filled with giant venomous spiders. In the second portal, there was a huge suspended rock that was supposed to crash down the moment someone stepped in. In the third portal, 7 hungry crocodiles were waiting for their next victim. Can you help Laura choose the right portal? Laura should pick the second portal. She can throw her shoes inside, wait for the giant stone to fall to the ground, and make her way around it. Daniel is a sailor on a large cruise ship. One day, the captain asked him to go to the hold and get some supplies. But as the man was walking down the ladder, it broke. Try as he might, he couldn't get out. Sometime later, he discovered there was a hole in the side of the ship. More and more water was getting inside through this hole. How can Daniel get out? He can put on one of the life jackets that are in the room and wait for the water to fill the hole. This water will lift him and he'll be able to push the door open. Look at this man and 3 women attentively. Can you figure out which one of them is his real wife? It must be the girl on the left. Look, unlike the other 2 girls, she has nothing in her hands. At the same time, the man is holding a purse, which, if we're honest, doesn't match his style at all. Ben and his girlfriend Amelie went to explore a cave and got lost. After some time, they came across 2 people, a guy and a young woman. The man, bearded and rough-looking, had a shovel in his hands. I've been stuck here for a week. I know how to get to the surface, but I need your help. Come with me. The young woman exclaimed, Don't trust him. He's a criminal.
Oh no.
Follow me. I've been stuck here for way longer than him, but I think I know where the exit is. Who should Ben and Amelie believe? Ben and Amelie decided to follow the man. If the girl had been in the cave for so long, why did she look so tidy and have fresh flowers in her hair? Look at this image. Can you figure out who came from the past? It's this guy. Take a closer look at his chest. He's wearing a shirt frill. Those were popular in the 19th century. How about this picture? Who's from the past? I bet it's this young girl. Look at her weird hat. And now, will you be able to spot the time traveler? It's this lady. Have a look. She's wearing clogs. Nature photographer Lydia was out taking pictures of trees and flowers in the park. She stopped when she noticed some weird chemical smell in the air. She took photos of all 3 factories in the area. When Lydia looked at the images later, she immediately realized which factory emitted toxic gas. Can you figure it out too? It's not the first factory. It seems abandoned. The second one is surrounded by trees and flowers. It means the smoke coming out of its funnels is safe. It's the third factory that's the toxic one. The trees around it look dry and unhealthy, and the flowers have turned black. At the airport, a furious traveler claimed that the contents of his baggage had disappeared. When I got my suitcase, it was empty. I want compensation. After checking the passenger's info, an airport worker found out that he had indeed left London with a heavy suitcase. And now his bag was empty and a bit wet. But don't you think the whole situation is a bit suspicious? Can you figure out what probably happened here? The passenger left London with a suitcase full of ice. During the flight, the ice melted and the water leaked out, and the man demanded compensation for his lost belongings. Lauren cooked 10 buckets of chicken wings for a family gathering, one for each guest. But later, it turned out that Jimmy hadn't gotten his portion. Someone had taken 2 buckets. Is it Uncle Patrick? He looks suspicious. Or maybe it's Lauren's son, Justin. He's wearing this creepy, knowing smile. Or could Jimmy himself hide his chicken wings to get another portion? What do you think? Where are the wings? Look at the dog. It wouldn't leave Uncle Patrick's side. It can smell the meat the man has hidden. Damien was at work when he found out he'd won the lottery jackpot. He told his accountant he wanted to give half of this money to his best friend Logan. But random people started showing up in the office calling themselves Logan to deceive the accountant and get the money. Can you figure out who the real best friend is? It's the guy wearing a matching bracelet with Damien. Emily was standing on one side of the river, and Anna was on the other. Anna shouted to Emily to come and meet her, and Emily did that. There was no bridge across the river, but she crossed it anyway without even getting wet.
Hello.
How did she do it? The river was frozen. 3 people were stopped at the security check in an international airport. They were suspected of smuggling different stuff out of the country. The first man was heading to a beach resort. In his suitcase, there was a lot of stuff you could use at the seaside. An umbrella, a pair of sunglasses, sunscreen, and a beach towel. The second man had a cage with 3 colorful birds and a pet carrier with a family of hamsters. He had all the necessary papers. The third man was traveling for business. In his bag, he had a suit, some documents, a toothbrush, toothpaste, and a bottle of expensive shampoo. Who's the smuggler? It's the third guy. He's bald. Why would he need this shampoo? 5 men were fishing in a boat not far from the shore. A big wave turned the boat over and all the men fell into the water. And still, not a single man got wet. How come? All the men were happily married. Stephen was driving to work when he realized he had left a folder with important documents at home. It was about 9 a.m. when he entered his house and saw a man leaving through the back door and running to a red car. Stephen called the police and told them about what had happened. Police officers didn't waste time and went to look for the criminal. After searching for 10 minutes, they spotted a similar-looking car near a cafe. When they entered the place, there was only one customer there. One of the police officers came up to him. "Is it your car? Where were you 20 minutes ago?" The customer answered, "Yeah, the car's mine, but I've been sitting here for more than an hour." The police officer immediately arrested him. Can you figure out why? The police officer noticed that the cafe only opened at 9 a.m. The guy couldn't have spent an hour there. Betty has a sister, Amy. Gail is Betty's mother. Meanwhile, Dan is Gail's father and Samantha is Dan's mother. Can you figure out how Amy is related to Dan? Here's why. Amy is Betty's sister, and Betty is the daughter of Gail. Therefore, Amy is another daughter of Gail. We also know that Dan is Gail's father. Therefore, Dan is Amy's grandfather. Betty is going on a date, and she's a little late. Her boyfriend, Stan, is already waiting for her inside their favorite coffee shop. Can you find him? It's this guy on the right. He has a small gift box on the table. After the date, Betty takes a car sharing to go home. The car is parked at this point. Can you figure out the only point Betty can reach? If Betty takes this weird route, she can only reach point 3. One of the most popular mailing websites is facing a system error. That's why the passwords of some clients are changed. Betty writes a message to the company's representative. My password is altered. I'm not able to log in. The company replies, this time your password is distinct and it has 8 letters, out of which 2 are the same as in your previous password. Betty replies, thanks, now I can log in. Can you figure out Betty's old and new passwords? Her new password is distinct, and the old one is altered. Betty arrives at her favorite swimming pool and spots something really weird. Can you see it too? Someone swapped these guys' shadows. After swimming training, Betty goes to the public shower. There are other people in shower cubicles nearby. Can you spot who's unwanted here? This person on the left should probably use the men's bathroom. He has only one shampoo bottle, while ladies usually bring a bunch of skincare products. Betty meets her best friend Rob. He always tells the truth. Rob says, I have one specific whole number on my mind. It's 1, 2, or 3. You can ask me just one question, but I can only reply yes or no, or I don't know. What question will you ask to figure out the number I'm thinking about? Can you help Betty? She should say, I have one whole number on my mind. It's between 2 and 3. Is the number I'm thinking of smaller or equal to your number? This way, if Rob replies no, then the number is 1. If he replies yes, the number is 3. And if he replies I don't know, the number is 2. Betty got a job as a cashier at a movie theater. A group of her first customers approached the ticket kiosk. 4 mothers, 2 grandmothers, and 4 daughters. What's the minimum number of tickets they need to buy? Only 6. Betty has 3 keys that open 3 different doors. How many attempts does she need to figure out the key for each door? Betty will need 6 attempts. First, she has to check the first key and spend 3 attempts for 3 doors. Then, check the second key, 2 attempts for the remaining 2 doors. And then, use the third key to open the last door. Betty enters the cafeteria and spots a thief right away. Can you see this person too? This elegant lady in the chair has a plastic detector attached to the stolen clothes. Someone robbed the movie theater. Betty calls the police and they arrest 3 suspects. Officers check the guy's passports. Can you spot a fake ID? Most passport pictures have a white background, so the one in the middle is fake. Late at night, Betty is walking home in a snowstorm. She meets her neighbor walking a dog in the street and freaks out. Can you guess why? The dog leaves footprints from only 2 paws. Betty continues her walk and sees another odd thing. Can you spot it too? It should be the moon, not Saturn. Betty enters her apartment building and meets 3 neighbors in the elevator. One of them is a werewolf. Can you guess who? This lady on the left. She's wearing a moon necklace. Betty goes to sleep and wakes up in an arena. The speakers announce that she must fight with one of these 3 hybrid creatures. Which one should she choose to stay alive? A polar bear with a head of a tiger, an elephant with a wolf head, or a hybrid with a face and body of a huge squid and the legs of a human? Betty should choose the 3rd hybrid. Since its body has gills, it won't be able to breathe and fight outside water. After the fight, Betty gets an invitation to meet the major investor of this competition, King Harold. She enters a big, beautiful hall and sees 6 people sitting in front of her. They're wearing the same outfit and look very similar. It's very hard to tell who's the real king here. But after a couple of minutes, Betty approaches one of them, bows, and says, "Nice to meet you, Your Majesty." How did she know who's the real king? All the other guys were looking at the king very attentively to imitate his manners and actions. Meanwhile, the real King Harold was sitting calmly. Betty returns home and faces bad news. Her cat Fluffy is missing. Betty questions her neighbors. Lily says, "Sorry, I didn't see any cats. I'm working from home. I spent all day working on my new book." Vanessa said, "I haven't seen Fluffy today, and it's cool because I have a terrible allergy to cats." And Bob said, "I think I heard a cat meowing on the balcony a couple of hours ago." Can you guess who stole the cat? Nobody. Fluffy's been hiding under Betty's couch all this time. Betty's boyfriend Stan lives just a couple of blocks away from her place. Betty calls him on FaceTime and invites him over. But Stan says, "Sorry, honey, I've just got home feeling very sick. I'd rather go to bed early." Betty yelled, "Liar!" and hung up. Why? Take a look at Betty's window. It's pretty dark. Stan lives only 2 blocks away, but there's a bright blue sky in his background, which means he's definitely not at home. Betty makes a beautiful sandcastle and then lies down. She falls asleep. In a while, Betty wakes up and sees that someone has ruined her castle. She asks 3 persons hanging out nearby, "Who did it?" Kelly replies, "I like your castle and took a couple of pictures for my social. Then I left to get some ice cream. When I came back, I saw the castle was completely ruined." Olivia said, "I'm sorry, I was swimming far from the shore. When I returned to the shore, I didn't notice any castles." And Tom said, "Sorry, lady, I don't see anything because I'm blind. The wind must have destroyed your castle. You shouldn't have to make it 5 stories high." Can you spot a liar? Tom is lying. He said he was blind. How did he learn the castle architecture in detail? Betty is using an app to find accommodation for her vacation. She likes 3 offers. Rose invites her to stay in a cozy bedroom on the 4th floor of her luxurious villa for the price of $50 per night. Jane is ready to host one person in a tiny guest house in her backyard for $30. And Tyler offers to rent his boat for $200 per night. Fishing equipment is included. Only one of these advertisements isn't fake. Can you guess which one? This villa is 3 stories, and Tyler's picture is hanging on the pier. He's a runaway thief. So, Jane's guest house is the safest option for Betty.
Carl and his wife Olivia had dinner. They ate the same dishes: French fries, some fish, and vegetable salad. Half an hour later, Carl felt unwell and called the ambulance. But when specialists arrived, he was already unconscious. The man was immediately taken to a hospital. Luckily, doctors had enough time to save him. When they figured out what was wrong with Carl, everyone was shocked. The man had been poisoned. But how could it happen? He and his wife ate the same dishes, but Olivia was perfectly fine. Even more surprising, the next day, the police arrested the woman for trying to poison her husband. How come? Olivia made all the dishes not salty enough and put poison in the salt shaker. Peter graduated from the police academy and began to work as a trainee detective. 1 week after the guy started his new job, he already had the first tricky case on his hands. One of his colleagues was investigating a series of crimes connected with smuggling. She was close to solving the case, but several days ago, the woman disappeared. Peter visited the last location where his colleague was spotted and found a note: 710-57735, 34 5508 51 7718. Peter has 3 suspects: Bill, a manager in an oil company; Todd, a jeweler; and John, a car dealer. Who's the criminal? Peter has managed to prove he deserves his detective badge. The guy turned the message upside down and tried to read it that way. Surprisingly, the letters made rather legible words. Bill is boss. He sells oil. Something went wrong in a super-secret laboratory. There was a leak of a newly developed experimental chemical, and it made several plants and animals mutate in the blink of an eye. Scientists ended up locked in one room with the vicious monsters. One of the researchers managed to figure out how they could get out of this dire situation, but the substance they needed was in another part of the laboratory. The scientists could get there through one of 3 corridors. The first was guarded by fire-breathing crocodiles. Hey, it was an experimental laboratory after all. The second corridor was filled with meat-eating sunflowers with extra sharp teeth. And the third passage was swarming with venomous bees. Which one should the scientists choose? They should opt for the corridor with the sunflowers. Those are plants, and however scary they are, they can't move. Terry and Alice fell in love and started going out, but the woman's best friend Sarah was jealous of their relationship. Alice didn't want to lose her friendship and tried to keep the dates with her boyfriend in secret. That's why she left him coded messages with the places where they were going to meet. That day, Terry found a new note. It looked like this. At first, he was puzzled, but soon enough, he realized where he was going to see Alice. Can you figure it out? Alice told Terry to meet her at the street corner. Patrick called the police. The man seemed to be worried sick. "My wife Victoria took our dog for a walk in the afternoon. Several hours ago, our pooch returned alone. I don't know where Vicky is." The police questioned the suspects. Mrs. Summers said she'd been watching TV all day long. "I was busy delivering the mail," said the postman. "I didn't have time to linger in this area, and I didn't see anything." And Mr. Thomas told the police he'd been working in his home office. The detective knew at once one of these people was lying. Who was it? It was the postman. His sleeve is a bit torn, and there's a dog bite on his arm. Plus, some black fur is stuck to his pants. Victoria's dog probably tried to protect the woman. 3 expensive watches have been stolen from Mr. Brown's store this year. The police can't help the poor man. He decides to hire a private detective. When Laura arrives, she immediately asks for the CCTV footage from January to December. After watching it, she tells the store owner who the thief is. What has she noticed in the video? The same guy came to the store several times, in April, August, and November. And every time, he has a cast on his arm. But no broken bone would need 8 months to heal. Joe had a friend, Randy, who never answered questions directly. Once, Joe sent Randy a message, inviting him to join their common friends in a cafe. Randy's answer was kinda weird. Sorry, no money. Job in job. Luckily, Joe knew his friend well enough to understand what he meant. But can you figure it out? Randy meant he had no money because he was in between jobs. The next time Joe texted Randy was when he needed some advice. Despite all his quirks, his friend was very good at finding solutions to difficult situations. So Joe wrote, "My girlfriend took my professional camera without asking permission, and then she accidentally smashed it. What should I do?" The answer was bizarre, not that it was unexpected. Give, get, give, get. Give, get, give, get. At first, Joe didn't think he wanted to follow this advice, but a bit later, he decided it was the best course of action. What was the advice? Forgive and forget. Dylan was an extremely popular guy in his office. Tall, handsome, funny, and friendly. But there was one thing that made certain people dislike him. The man had a new girlfriend every month. That Friday, Dylan came to work happier than he'd ever felt. He finally bought the car of his dreams. At lunchtime, he went to the parking lot to check in on his new toy. Oh no! His car was a mess, scratched and covered in paint. Dylan went pale and called security. He had 3 suspects, all of them his exes. Andrea said she didn't even know Dylan had got a new car. Catherine answered she'd been preparing a report for their boss and hadn't left her desk. And Mila told the guy she'd forgiven him long ago. Who ruined Dylan's car? It was Catherine. She had some smeared paint on her skirt, and the color is the same as the paint on the man's car. 2 maids work in a small hotel in the mountains. One day, the hotel owner finds out one of them regularly steals stuff from guests, but he doesn't know which one it is. Look at these maids cleaning the rooms. Can you help the owner understand who's guilty? The maid on the right hasn't noticed the ring under the sofa. She might not be a great cleaner, but also not a thief. As for the maid on the left, she's spotted the ring and put it in her bucket. It means she's going to take it for herself after she finishes cleaning. She's the one who steals things. One afternoon, all the money was stolen from the register of a small cafe on the beach. The police have 5 suspects. All of them claim they haven't been to the cafe in the past hour. Look at them closely and try to figure out who's the thief. It's the guy with a cocktail in his hand. He definitely bought it in the cafe. But then, why did he lie about not visiting the place? Police officer Cheryl Adams was visiting her colleagues in another town. She was walking along the river, taking pictures to send to her husband, when a man crashed into her. They both fell to the ground. After helping Cheryl to her feet, the man started to apologize. It turned out someone had stolen his wallet, and he was trying to catch the thief. "I was painting my boat, and my wallet was lying next to me. But then I got distracted, just for a moment. But when I turned back, the wallet wasn't there anymore." Cheryl understood the thief couldn't have gone far. She pulled the man to the nearby pier. There were 4 people there. After looking at them closely, the police officer knew who the thief was. Now it's your turn to figure it out. It's the man who's talking on the phone. There's some green paint on his feet. Julia came to have lunch in her favorite restaurant. She occupied a table near the window and put her bag in the seat next to her. Once the woman gave her order to the waiter, she went to the bathroom to wash her hands. But when she returned to the table, her bag was open and her wallet was missing. The waiter told her he had noticed only one man passing by her table. He was short, with a tattoo on his neck. He seemed to go out to the terrace. Julia rushed there and saw 3 people sitting at their tables. She looked at them closely and soon understood who'd taken her wallet. Who was the thief? It's the young woman on the right. You can see a wig and some men's clothing in her bag. Plus, she's wearing a turtleneck to cover her tattoo.
One Sunday, Tom told his brother Dan that he was going hiking with his friend Chris. The next Saturday, the police found Tom unconscious in the forest. Dan said he had been working all week. As for Chris, he was found wandering along the highway. He explained that he had gotten lost in the forest almost immediately after they had arrived and just found his way home. One of the guys was lying. Who was it? Look at Chris. He's too well-shaven for a man who spent a week in the woods. There are 5 girls in the room. Ashley is drawing, Olivia is reading, Maria is playing hide-and-seek, and Emma is tidying up. What's Sarah doing? Sarah is playing hide-and-seek with Maria, of course. What number is missing? A small hint, it's not number 4. Number 5 is missing. The subsequent number of 234 is 235. In the small town of Sunshine Valley, 3 teachers went on a sick leave all on the same day. Jenna says she got into a car accident and broke her leg, so she can't walk. Emma complained she had a very unfortunate workout and injured her neck, so she can't turn her head. And Tina says she fell from a bike and fractured her arm. But one of them is lying. Can you tell who? It's Jenna. If she can't walk, why does she even have a crutch to hold her up? If it's raining at midnight, can you expect that in 72 hours it'll be sunny? Nope, in 72 hours, it's going to be night again. In the room, there are 2 people, both of them sitting. But if one of them stands up, they won't be able to take the other one's place whatever they do. How is that possible? The second person is sitting on the first one's lap. A father tells his teenage daughter, "You arrived very late at 3 a.m. and made us all worry a lot. I don't want this situation to repeat." His daughter, though, replies that it will never happen again. How can she be so sure? The father was talking about the birth of his daughter. An art expert paid big money at an auction for a painting that he knew didn't cost anything. He was an honest man and didn't have any criminal intentions. Why did he buy this picture? Although the painting cost nothing, its frame was a beautiful and expensive piece of art. A street food vendor has a sign on his stall saying 1 hot dog, $1.50, 3 hot dogs, $5. He knows it's more expensive to buy 3, but doesn't change his sign. Why? Each time a customer saw his sign, they would buy 1 hot dog, then another, and then a third one, totaling up to $4.50. Thus, everyone's happy. The customers think they're clever, and the vendor gets his sales up. During a fire, a bank was robbed. The security guard told the police that he wanted to save a bag of money, but he had to crouch to tie his boot just in front of the emergency exit. At that moment, the door opened and hit him on the head. When he came to, the money was missing. Why was the security guard arrested? Well, all emergency doors open outwards. You find yourself in a photo gallery. After looking at the wall, you realize that one of the pictures doesn't belong to the rest. You see a raccoon, a llama, a football, and a balloon. Can you tell which is the odd one out? It's the llama picture. The other 3 objects have 2 double letters in their names, but the llama only has 1 double. There's a barrel of water in the yard. You look inside and say that it's more than half full, but your friend argues that it's less than half full. How to figure out who's right without using any measuring tools or removing water from the barrel? Tilt the barrel so that the water touches the rim. If you can see the bottom, the barrel's less than half full. If the bottom is still covered with water, it's more. Sam and his brother John were always fighting. Their mother couldn't take it anymore and came up with a clever plan to stop them. She told the boys to stand on the same piece of paper in such a way that they didn't touch each other, and it worked. The boys couldn't fight anymore. How did she do it? The woman slipped the paper under a closed door and made Sam stand on one side and John on the other. There is a bridge that is 1 mile long. It can hold only 5,000 pounds at one time. That's exactly the weight of the truck that's crossing it. The truck reaches the middle of the bridge and stops. Suddenly, a bird lands on the truck. Is the bridge going to collapse? The bridge isn't going to break down because the truck has already used some gas to get to the middle and therefore weighs less than 5,000 pounds. A young woman is sitting near the window. At first, she's deep in thought. Then, she suddenly decides to throw something out of the window. A couple minutes later, she drops on the floor unconscious. She's perfectly healthy and isn't prone to sudden faints. There was no one outside to have hit her either. So, what happened? She was knocked out by the very same thing she'd thrown out the window. It was a boomerang that came back and hit her on the head. Well, that was a dumb thing to do. 2 men are in a room facing each other. One of the men is a psychic and can see into the future. He predicts that in 10 minutes, the other man will be hit on the back of his head. Of course, shocked and paranoid, the other man can't stop staring at the clock on the wall. And exactly 10 minutes later, he's lying face down on the floor. How could it happen? After 10 minutes, the man turned around to see if there was anyone behind him. At exactly that moment, the psychic hit him on the back of his skull. Well, I'm starting to think he wasn't a psychic after all. You walk up to the edge of a forest when suddenly you see a man in swimming trunks, goggles, and a snorkel going out of the thicket and falling on the ground as if exhausted. But you know the nearest body of water is several miles away. How did the weird man end up in the forest? There was a huge forest fire, and the plane that was extinguishing it had to scoop up water from the lake several miles away. Doing it, it accidentally captured the man snorkeling in the lake. He was dropped down together with the water and miraculously survived. Upon receiving an anonymous tip, the police rushed to a house where a suspect was said to be. They have no physical description, but they do know his name is John. When the cops reach the place, they see 4 people sitting at a table: a carpenter, a firefighter, a truck driver, and a mechanic, none of which have name tags on their uniforms. Without a moment's hesitation, they arrest the firefighter. So, how did they know that's their guy? The firefighter was the only man in the room. All the others at the table were women and couldn't be named John. A man and his wife are driving down a highway when they run out of gas. So the husband decides to walk to the nearest gas station, which is about an hour's walk away. Before he heads off, he tells his spouse to stay in the car and lock all the doors and windows. The wife, bored and wanting to entertain herself, turns on the radio only to hear some shocking news. A notorious criminal has escaped from prison and was last seen on that very highway where the car is sitting. The reporter on the news gives a very detailed description of the escapee. The wife gets so scared that she quickly turns off the radio. She double-checks all the locks, but when she looks up, she sees the escapee just a few feet away from the car. When the man returns, he finds the car still all locked up, but his wife is nowhere to be seen. How is it possible? The answer is simple. The couple had been driving a convertible with the top down, and the woman wasn't, dare we say, terribly bright. An adventurer found a treasure chest in a cave that was guarded by a pirate. He had 3 keys, gold, silver, and black, but only one of them could open the chest. The pirate would give the adventurer only one chance to reach the treasure. If he chose the right key, he could take the chest. If he chose incorrectly, the pirate would attack him. Arr! The only clue was this cipher. Which is the right key? The cipher is an anagram. Shuffle the letters a bit and you'll get the golden key. The adventurer went away unscathed, and the pirate was left frustrated and treasureless.
Blue ocean, golden sand, green palm trees, fresh fruit. This place is like a paradise. It's good that Luke finally went on vacation. He's sunbathing, drinking cocktails, and enjoying life. Such a perfect day. Maybe too perfect. Luke's smile disappears. Nothing is real. 2 signs indicate that Luke is dreaming right now. What are these signs? The first thing is that there are 2 suns in the sky. The second sign is that the ocean has no waves. Luke gets scared. He realizes he's sleeping. At this moment, a giant kraken comes out of the ocean. It stretches huge tentacles towards Luke and screams out like a siren. How can Luke escape from it? Where should he run? There's no need to run anywhere. This is a dream, and the kraken can help Luke wake up. The monster grabs the guy, and he opens his eyes and realizes he's in a laboratory. He was caught a few days ago. A group of people have been conducting strange experiments on him all this time. It wasn't the kraken he heard, it was a real siren. Flashing red lights illuminate the lab. The room itself is a mess. Lots of stuff on the floor, overturned tables. There are no people, only pictures of some scientists on the wall. There should be a key to the door among all these documents and garbage. Quickly, help Luke find it and escape. and the key is hidden. Not here. It's not needed. The door isn't locked. See? Luke is about to leave the lab, but wait, what does he need to take with him? Look around the room. He can only take one item. Luke should opt for the shoes. They're going to be useful outside. Luke puts on a pair of boots and gets out of the lab. He's in a long corridor. He sees several guards ahead. They start chasing after him. Luke runs away in the opposite direction. There are 3 ways in front of him. One corridor is filled with toxic gases. The second way is a bottomless dark abyss. The third corridor is so hot that the walls are glowing red. What should Luke choose? The second hall with a chasm. See how the light gets reflected from the abyss? This means there's a glass floor covering it, and Luke can walk on it. Luke runs through the second hall and finds himself trapped. Several guards are standing there and everyone is looking at him. It seems like there's no chance of getting out, but wait a minute, the guards are not dangerous. Why? They're motionless because they're either well-done wax figures or real people who can't move for some reason. Luke leaves the room, and now he's in a long corridor again. The doors close behind him, guards are rushing towards him from the hall, and doctors are running from the other direction. What should Luke do? Hurry up, help the guy before they notice him. Do you see a laundry basket? There are white coats there. Luke should dress up as a doctor and walk past the guards. The guy enters one of the many doors and finds himself in a large room for experiments. This is where they keep their test subjects. There are several locked cells with people sitting inside. They ask Luke to release them. Unfortunately, he can only free one prisoner. But who? A werewolf is locked in that cell. An electrical human is in another. A seemingly ordinary girl is locked in the third one. In the furthest cage, there's a guy with a shark's mouth. Luke should save the girl. Come on, all the other prisoners are scary monsters. Did you expect a trick? Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. Luke opens the cell. The girl's name is Jessie, but she doesn't want to go with Luke. She doesn't believe him. Why? Because Luke is wearing a lab coat. He explains to Jessie that he put on these clothes to remain unnoticed. He's as much of a prisoner here as she is. Jessie finally believes him. Together, they escape from the lab, but the guards and scientists notice them. Our heroes are trapped. There are 3 rooms in front of them. An electrical current is running non-stop through the first one. 3 ferocious lions are in the second room. There's a fire raging in the third one. How should Luke and Jessie escape? They don't have to enter any of these rooms. In the corridor above them, there is an open ventilation hatch. These guys should help each other get in there. They crawl through the vent for a few minutes. Finally, they reach the elevators. But the heads of 2 creatures have got stuck in the elevator doors. One of them is a werewolf. The other is a zombie. Jessie and Luke can only save one of them. Who will survive without their help? The guys save the werewolf because the zombie is no longer alive anyway. He can survive even without his head. The werewolf runs away while Luke and Jessie get into the elevator. The laboratory is located deep underground, so they go 40 floors up. The doors open, and they find themselves inside an old hut. Our heroes go outside and see a winter forest. Jessie and Luke run forward as fast as they can. They hear dogs barking and people screaming. The scientists are chasing them. The guys come to a crossroads. The first way leads to a lake. At the beginning of the second road, there's a sign, "Beware of wolves." The third road leads to a high cliff. Where should they go? It's winter now, so the lake is frozen. Luke and Jesse run across the lake and find themselves in a clearing. Two guys are standing there. Both of them seem normal. They ask Luke and Jesse if they can come along. Luke feels that one of the guys is not who he claims to be. How can he figure out which one it is? If you pay attention to the footprints in the snow, you'll see how this guy appeared here, but there are no footprints near the second guy. How did he get here? It's suspicious. Jesse and Luke agree to take along the first guy. His name is Max. He says he's also escaped from the lab. He knows there's a road somewhere nearby, so they decide to find it. They wander through the forest for several hours. No one seems to be chasing them anymore. But now, they have a new problem. They're cold and hungry. Sometime later, they see a small house where they can warm up. But the door is locked. Where's the key? See this scarecrow next to the forest? The key is in its hand. The guys open the door and find food and clothes. They rest, eat, and get warmer. Soon, they're ready to set off. There's an old car in the backyard. There's even some gasoline in its tank. But when Luke is driving it out of the yard, the car runs over a nail. The tire is punctured. Now they have to walk again. It's getting darker and colder. Despite warm clothes, our guys start freezing. How can our heroes keep warm? There are old dry leaves, moss, and grass under the snow. Luke, Jesse, and Max put all this inside their clothes. Yeah, they stain their t-shirts and sweaters, but they also create an additional layer of protection against the cold. Finally, they're near the edge of the forest. Through tree branches, the guys see a road illuminated by moonlight. They're saved. Now they only need to catch a car. Max, Luke, and Jesse walk along the highway and finally see headlights. Luke raises his arm to stop the car. A small pickup truck is slowing down. The driver rolls down the window and asks if the guys need help. Jesse quickly tells him everything that has happened to them. The driver asks them to get in the car, but Luke doesn't want to. He's sure that this man is one of the bad guys. How has Luke figured it out? When Luke woke up in the lab, he paid attention to the pictures of the scientists on the wall. This driver is one of them. The guys run back into the forest where they come across a pack of wolves. The hungry animals surround our heroes. One of the wolves is about to attack, but a loud howl scares it, and it runs away. A monster covered with fur comes out of the bushes. Max screams and is about to run away, but Jesse and Luke look calm. Why? Because this is the werewolf our heroes rescued from the elevator. They follow the monster. It leads them to a safe place. This is a small village hidden deep in the forest. Creatures that don't look like humans live here. Werewolves, bird people, merfolk, and humanoid trees. They used to be people, but the scientists changed the structure of their DNA. Now these creatures are going to destroy the laboratory to take revenge. While Luke, Jesse, and Max are resting, you have time to check your score and find out how useful you've been in this adventure. 0 to 3 points. Luke wouldn't have gotten out of the lab if he had listened to you. It's still difficult for you to get out of tricky situations. Maybe you were too nervous. Or perhaps you should work on your ability to focus. 4 to 7 points. You've been helping the guys get out of trouble pretty well, but still, this is not enough to become a team leader. You'll definitely get better after a little more practice. 8 to 11 points. You can find a way out of almost any difficult situation and deal with any problem. Just a bit more, and you will become a perfect leader. 12 to 15 points. You're a real hero. You can successfully overcome any difficulties and lead large groups of people. Don't lose your focus. It'll help Luke and his friends in their next adventures. 16 to 17 points. You're the best of the best. Problems don't scare you, they entertain you. Stacy has just moved to a new town to start a new life. Her real estate agent has offered her 4 houses for rent. Can you help Stacy find the perfect one? The first house has uneven floors. The second one is standing too close to a fast food restaurant. There might be too much noise and different unpleasant smells. The fourth house is haunted. Look at the portraits on the walls. They're moving. Also, there's a ghost reflected in the mirror. But the third house looks pretty cozy and safe. As soon as Stacy moved in, she received 3 welcome cakes from her neighbors. But there's only one edible cake among them. Can you help Stacy recognize it? There are not only berries but also a cockroach on top of the first pie.
Ew.
There's a human tooth hidden in the coconut flakes on the third cake. And the second cake looks good, even though its color is rather weird. Stacy invited her neighbors for dinner to get to know each other. She showed the guests her unique ruby that she had found in Thailand. Everyone had a lot of fun. But when the guests left, Stacy noticed that the ruby was gone. She called the police and showed them the pictures from the party. Who stole the ruby? This guy. He hid the precious stone under his head. Stacy got an invitation to a barbecue party, but when she arrived at the location, something scared her very much. The house was full of rats. How many rats can you spot? The correct number is 13. Stacy heard some music and walked around the house. In the backyard, she saw a campfire party. Everyone roasted marshmallows and told horror stories. Stacy wanted to join, but she noticed one creepy detail and decided to go home instead. Why? This guy doesn't have a shadow. He's a vampire. The next morning, the vampire guy, whose name was Luke, came over to Stacy. He explained that their town was quite unusual. Most citizens were zombies, mermaids, vampires, elves, and werewolves. But all of them got along really well. Luke took Stacy for a walk to show her the town. She got hungry, and they went to the local restaurant. Can you help Stacy spot a zombie among these customers? This woman over there. Take a look at her food. There are worms in her noodles. After lunch, Luke confessed that he liked Stacy and invited her on a date. He was very attractive, so Stacy said, "Okay, but first, you gotta crack my riddle. The things I bite, they don't bleed. I don't bite until you push me. I bring something together every time I bite. But it comes undone again if you pull it just right. What am I?" Luke gave his answer and they went on a date. What did he say? I'm a stapler. Luke and Stacy went to see a movie and chose a scary one. They sat in the middle of the empty theater. After a while, Luke pointed at the screen. He was very scared. Stacy also noticed one creepy detail. What scared the couple so much? Since Luke is a vampire, there should be only one shadow on the screen, Stacy's. But look, there are 2 shadows. They're not alone. Next morning, Stacy went shopping. The local supermarkets offered plenty of weird stuff for zombies, werewolves, and other creatures. Can you help Stacy choose the right milk? We can see milk number 1 in this zombie's basket, so it's probably not good for humans. Milk number 2 is standing on the shelf with the inscription, "For elves only." So the best option for Stacy is milk number 3. In the parking lot, a thief stole Stacy's bag and escaped on a motorcycle. Stacy got into her car and drove after him, but she got stuck in a traffic jam. Finally, she reached a crossroads. She saw a traffic officer there. Stacy asked if he'd seen a biker in the past hour. The officer said, "I haven't seen any today." Look at the camera pics of 3 main roads. No one has driven down the first road for an hour. 2 mounted police officers have traveled down the second road. And only 1 blue truck has driven down the third road. Which way did the criminal go? He chose the third road. He hid inside the truck. The police in the town liked Stacy's way of thinking very much and offered her a job as a detective. She received her first task immediately. A dangerous criminal escaped from prison. Stacy had to catch him. The evidence led her to a farm. She saw a man working in the field. Detective Stacy asked him if he had seen any strangers around. The farmer said, "Sorry, I didn't focus on what was going on around." Stacy immediately guessed that he was the criminal. How? If he's a farmer, why has he ruined the crops? She tried to stop the man, but he escaped again. Stacy continued chasing the criminal. Suddenly, she saw a house and entered it. The owner was inside. Stacy asked him, "Has anyone visited you today?" He said, "No, neither have I left the house." Then Stacy asked, "Do you live with your family?" The man said he lived on his own. By that point, Stacy had already figured out that the guy was a liar. How did she guess? There are 2 cups of coffee on the table, and a wet umbrella is standing near the door. Stacy realized the guy was wasting her time on purpose to let the criminal escape. Suddenly, she received a message from her colleague. People had seen the criminal at the local shopping mall. He was hiding in the ladies' bathroom. Stacy knew exactly where he was hiding as soon as she got there. Can you see the criminal? He's over there. The guy managed to escape from Stacy through the window. He ran to a crowded street. Stacy followed him. Can you help her find the criminal? There he is. After a hard day, Stacy drove up to a gas station to fill up the tank. She paid for the gas, she left. Soon she noticed that a car was following her. She didn't know the driver, and she didn't recognize the car. So she tried to get away from him. She took sudden turns and accelerated, but it was useless. Finally, she reached the police station. Stacy was shocked to see that the man had followed her there. He wasn't a police officer, and everything was okay with her car. Why did he follow Stacy? The man saw a vampire hiding in the back of Stacy's car. Luckily, the vampire turned out to be Luke. He just wanted to surprise his girlfriend. He gave Stacy beautiful flowers and invited her over for dinner. His house looked gloomy, but chic. Stacy was very impressed and told Luke, "Your art collection is stunning." But Luke confessed, "In fact, there's only one really ancient portrait on this wall. Can you guess which one?" This guy is wearing a fitness tracker. There's a selfie ring in the background of the second portrait. It means that only the third portrait is really old. Stacy entered Luke's kitchen and began to scream. The room was full of huge, creepy spiders. How many spiders can you count? The correct answer is 16. Luke said, "No worries, they're my friends." He introduced Stacy to each of his 16 pets and showed her the way to the living room. After dinner, Luke took out a box, a gift for Stacy. He said, "I'll give you this precious piece of jewelry if you figure out my riddle. I'm tall and twisted, narrow and fast. I'm here for a moment, but my devastation lasts. What am I?" A minute later, Stacy became the owner of a beautiful pearl necklace. What did she say? A tornado. Luke and Stacy were dancing. Suddenly, they heard the sound of glass shattering from the kitchen. Someone broke the window and wrote, "You will regret it," on the wall. Stacy questioned 3 witnesses. A ghost named Eddie said he'd been taking a bath and hadn't heard any noise. Luke's ex-girlfriend Nora said she'd been at home, knitting a sweater. Werewolf Fred said that he'd seen a strange shadow moving towards Luke's house. Who's lying? Eddie. If he's a ghost, why would he take a bath? The next day, Stacy came to the pier to have a boat ride with Luke, but she didn't see him. Only a group of suspicious people standing on the shore. She stopped and got out of her car. The people noticed her and ran in the opposite direction. She ran after them but couldn't catch up. She looked around and realized that those people were actually ghosts. How did she figure it out? When Stacy was chasing them, she was running on the sand, but now she can see only the footprints of her own shoes. Suddenly, someone pushed Stacy into the water. Down in the Sea Kingdom, Stacy met Neptune. He was sitting on his throne, surrounded by 3 mermaids. Neptune asked Stacy to return the pearl necklace to his wife. She had recently lost it, and Luke found the necklace on the shore. Can you guess which mermaid is Neptune's wife? The third one. She's the only one who's wearing an engagement ring. When Stacy gave the necklace to its rightful owner, Neptune snapped his fingers. His guards brought Luke. Neptune said, "I'll let you go home safely, but you have to choose the right door." There were demons behind the first door. They were ready to eat anyone who dared to come in. There was lava all over the floor of the room behind the second door. And finally, there was a laser beam that could cut through anything it touched behind the third door. Which door should Stacy and Luke choose? The third one. They can crawl under the beam without touching it.